So it's a matter of who am I talking to, really, because we've definitely reached enough people that the tension between me wanting to support all of you and being distracted by those of you who are not here for the right reasons or not here with commitment needs to adjust. So may those who are out of tune with the heart of our calling, the guidance, the love that brings us together, the challenges we bear, the solutions we seek, the depths of the blessings we find in our sleep, may our dreams realign. May our souls stay with the divine. And may the heart of our presence step up and shine. There we go. Beautiful. This is no small thing that we're talking about here. I want a lot of sage today. This is no small thing I'm sharing with you here. I've been defensive for years in a way that I don't have time for that. Some of you are working so hard, and that's who I want to talk to. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. I think most of you who are here, who have been here for years, who've been working hard, deserve much more respect and appreciation. You're at your edge, you're holding space, you're taking responsibility for your karma, you're taking responsibility for your habits, your presence, your energy. Thank you. It is such a joy to watch you grow. It is such a joy to watch you conquer. I want to talk to you. Here's what I've witnessed for years now. You find your challenges, you match them, you transform. Let's explain how this works. We all carry karma. I'd like you to envision this as just different strands of light, like we're a living tree with different branches that sort of dance, kind of cross between a tree and a Tesla coil. And each of these strands of light are like their own radio station. So imagine you could tune into them and they all represent different aspects of consciousness, whole fields of presence. And if you stay focused on them, you kind of feel like this is me. But realistically, we are many of these. We just have bias. We have priority in one space or another. And so the process of becoming a healthier human being is to become whole. Know thyself. To know thyself is to be able to identify accurately and honestly everything that is you. And as you do, you encounter the wounded aspects of yourself, the traumatized aspects, and even the in-between, the parts of yourself that are attuned to an old way of being that is not suited for you now. Maladaptive answers that worked once but don't fit now. Attempts at being human that maybe never fit and you're still struggling to reconcile and try to come to terms with. You tried to be a certain person when you were 20 and 30 or 10. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but it's still living in you as a strand of light or 2 or 3. And so we are this dance. And often we attempt to reconcile this dance by like sort of shocking ourselves to focus on what does work now, yet not necessarily being good at addressing what does not. Now here's the truth. The reason we don't go deeper, the reason many don't go deeper is because if you do, you will reach the edge of this lifetime. There's no real other way to do this. And once you do, you start to go insane. Now, what that means is literally, you are so conscious of different aspects of yourself, and it's you. You try to externalize it. Now, when you stay restricted within one lifetime of understanding, that tends to work for periods of time. Meaning you will literally attract different people into your life who are actually being attracted to different aspects of your own karma. But you get to think of it as someone else. And this is a get to. It gives you the opportunity to work on whatever you're trying to be and to actively say no to yourself. And what you're doing is you're seeing what it looks like when these parts of you are reflected to you. And you're going, oh, I don't like that. Now, this is deep karmic work, but it hits a wall when you keep thinking it's actually someone else. Now, the world she's got a deep, dark sense of humor. She'll often show you exaggerations. It's true. It's an exaggeration. It's not really you, but it's the same pattern. It's the same pattern. And she does this with people who are stubborn, with people who double down and continue to reassert that is someone else. When you take the step to go as deep as it takes, you get to the point where for whatever combination of reasons, your life isn't working well enough. You're not happy often enough. Things aren't pleasant frequently enough. Your efforts to create, to respond to your pain, to love the people around you, they're just not working consistently enough. So something pushes you to the point where you surrender more deeply. And surrender looks like, what do I have to do to make this work? Now, there are various levels of that, but the base level surrender is a humility that cuts through your paradigm. And these are the points at which you expand, because that's the only place the true answers lie. Now, there are great advantages in staying contained for significant periods of time without expanding. The advantage is you learn to transform your energy. And so, base level, you want to recognize where you're at. Are you near an expansion or not? There's a very different rhythm of reality when you're expanding and when you're, in charge of a system within yourself that's just there. It feels like there's walls in every direction. And it's a difficult piece that you have to find, accepting walls or breaking them. You can't just make one formula and say, always break the walls, set me free. Sometimes the walls are absolutely exquisite. They're so wonderful because what they're doing is they're forcing you into new patterns. When you're contained in a certain way, your energy bounces against the walls, right? But then it has the potential to transform. And this transformation, unparalleled. Now you have access to a new dimension. Now you have access to a way of being that you couldn't even see before. But you'll never find it if you just rant and rave against the walls. And what this ends up looking like is your body. See, you were put in a body to transform karma you can't even remember. You don't want to remember it. That's the point. That's one of the primary reasons you came here. You accepted the restrictions and the terrible fragility of this body so you could transform things that you wanted to forget, you wanted to leave behind, you wanted to be liberated from. Now you're addicted to the matrix and you're interpreting everything through a false context. And what I mean is, if you're not careful, you're going to rant and rave against the confines of your body. And the only way to find peace with this is to have a degree of remembrance that you chose these. Wake up! That's what awakening ultimately is. Now, whoever told you that when you wake up, you can't fall back asleep? Who told you this? How did you internalize that? My awakening. Yeah, but did you fall back asleep? You can remember it, but do you really remember it? Chances are you've woken up and you slip back into dreamland over and over and over again. That's how it works for most of the people I encounter. And the goal is to make enough progress and to own enough of your presence as you awaken that you can stay without going insane. Now, this is going to lead in a place that I would love to communicate with you today is exquisite. In about 5 minutes, we're going to do a yoga break because I want to. I am going to encourage you to another level because the energy on the planet is changing. And this is what it takes. I presume I'm talking to a majority of people who sit around too much and are stuck within limitations, confines that are pretty bad for you. For those of you who work outside, this doesn't apply to you as much. For those of you who get to move around a lot, good. But a vast majority of people who are engaged in the whatever you call this way of life that we've created are deeply out of tune with your actual needs. And as a result, you have to struggle. You have to fight to reclaim yourself. And the most specific way you can do that is to amplify the strength and presence of your body. You got to make this a better place to be. You got to make this a better place to be. Now, here's the beauty of this. I cannot say this frequently enough, and I would love more affirmation and conversation about how beautiful this is. I never get bored of how exquisite this is. We're aiming for vitality. You're not aiming for absolute abilities. If you're addicted to watching the one who can stand on one finger, you're never going to know yourself. The beauty of the person who can stand on one finger is not that they can stand on one finger. It's that they kept riding their edge. That's how you get into extremes. You keep riding your edge. If you are waiting until you can stand on one finger to be happy, you entirely miss the point. Everyone can find their edge. Everyone can find their edge. If you are bound within restrictions that seem unique to you and it sets you apart in some category that you feel like makes this rule not true, you are mistaken. The vitality that comes from working on your edge can almost always fall into this specific category. Find something you can repeat between 8 and 13 times. You can maybe barely get to 8, or you can barely get to 13. You want to land in between there. The reason I'm saying a range and not a specific number is the mentality of being within a range is so much closer to true health. If you get 13 repetitions of something difficult and then think that you're always supposed to do that, you're not going to be able to tune in to the next Tuesday when the conditions are different for reasons you can't tell. You don't know how to calculate, register the barometric pressures, the rhythm of the moon, the emotional baggage that came up in your family. They all affect you. So on next Tuesday, even though last Friday you got 13, next Tuesday, it's time to do 10. It's really better to do 10. So you're aiming in this range where you hang out here. Because what you're really aiming for is vitality. What we want is to give you access to a hit of vitality. We're about to do it. So I want you to choose something that's difficult. It's difficult. It gets your heart rate up. And 13, you're tired. You're tired. Now, the next level, and this is for those of you who have trained or who can pick up on it quickly, use a higher natural number. Natural numbers, 8, 13, 21, 34. Use 55 if you're for some. Use one of these numbers. This is the last thing I'm going to say before we do it. This matters. This is not a small thing. I am teaching you magic. All I want you to do is use these numbers like a ladder. And what we're aiming for is the range. But you keep using the higher number as the goal. And the reason we're doing this is it's a lattice for the golden spiral. The golden spiral is the way energy grows. We're trying to tap you into vitality. Vitality is growth of energy within yourself. So it can flower into the world and generate ideas, creativity, relationships, joy, thriving. Thriving works the way nature works. with natural numbers. Nature likes natural numbers. And the simple version of this, and rewind it, listen again. You add what you know with what you know. So 0 and 1. You add what you know to what you know. 0 plus 1 is 1. You add what you know to what you know. 1 plus 1 is 2. Just add the last 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 plus 8 is 21. 21 plus 13 is 34. You add what you know with what you know. So you're always taking what you already have and you're learning to combine it in a new way. This is how vitality flows. Now, if you map this, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, you have an increasing lattice for a spiral of energy. And the golden mean maps right into that like a lattice. So it's the support structure for the energy. So you're using mental goals, logical, rational goals to shape a structure that invites spirit to move through you and grow in a way that can be consistent. So the important aspect of this is you are not always trying to increase your range. Go months within 8 to 13. Go months. And then when it's time to shift, you push to get from 13 to 21. You push. I just pushed a bunch of my limits from 8 to 13. Pull-ups. I just pushed my push-ups from 21 to 34. Pushed. I was hanging out at the lower range. Then I pushed to get to the upper range. Now I'm going to chill here for a while. I am building something within my body that invites spirit to move through. So I invite you to use this. Today, I'm going to do 8 splits, side splits to either side. What are you going to do? Every hour or two. Every hour or two for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. This is what we're going for. So here's what you're learning. This is a Karate Kid type thing, all right? But on a next level. You're doing it physically, but you'll eventually learn that you're doing the foundation of an energetic transformation. So you do this every hour or two and transmute your frustrations. You transmute your anger. You transmute confusion, tension, fear, pain. And increasingly, you get more specific. So you're not doing the same thing. If you're doing it every hour or two, maybe you do one thing that you're really working on to build strength 3 times. Maybe you do something else that's much more peaceful that ends up being more explicitly tied to inner work, like chakra balancing. It's not as strenuous, but it is the similar 2 minutes Then take another minute to breathe in your heart or something. And you're establishing the foundation of a new way of life. Now, this is more crucial than you can possibly imagine once you start reaching the edge of, I don't even want to put it in words. There's an edge. I invite you towards an edge. You get to be here, tethered to yourself, to your body. And as you amplify your presence in your body, you are more capable of coming into contact with who you have been in other lifetimes. Because you need to make this louder. This is who I am now. This is me today. This is what I am creating here. And you differentiate enough so you can get in touch with who you've been in other lifetimes. And you need to get in touch with who you've been in other lifetimes. You need to reclaim the best of who you've been. You don't get to progress if you're leaving behind your best. Why would you leave behind your best? 2 reasons. 1, you fear that you're going insane. It's too confusing. You're trying to conceptualize this presence of another being, another person, as if there's someone else. Now, as I told you, for much of your life, this works. You encounter other people. You've been close. You are close to other people who represent a core energy that you lived out in another lifetime. You've been allowed, even encouraged to externalize that energy so you could develop a different relationship to it. But then you hit this threshold, and now it's time that you embrace all of yourself. But then you come up against the other reason you're avoiding it. You've been an asshole. You don't want to remember. You've been an asshole. And that's putting it mildly in certain cases. Kaiya's rough. She's rough. She's put you in some difficult situations. One of the first lessons I learned about this was she showed me how I created and I had to destroy. She put me in the center of creating certain cultures and then in the center of destroying them. Remembering that is painful. And even more confusing is to remember the pain and resentment of watching something you love die, only to learn that you were part of destroying it in another form. If this doesn't sound confusing to you, you haven't gone deep enough yet. You got to go through the confusion before you can be present with how necessary this is. Because it's worth it. As she repeatedly affirms to me, and when I say she, typically this is how it works. She'll trigger my presence. She is very conscious. She can be piercingly present in an individualistic concept. You can relate to her as an individual. She's far more capable of doing this than we are. And yet she will gracefully pass you on to one of your own guides who's in tune with her, in tune with the Kaiyan mind. Now, this is a wide-ranging day. I'm helping lead you through chaos. What's that worth to you? I'm helping lead you through the most difficult and confusing chaos. We're ahead of a curve. We're ahead of a very deep curve. This is where I wanted to live. It mattered more to me than any status or esteem. I'd like the other now, but only from within this center. We're at the edge of what's possible to remember, to be present with. Apparently, that's not entirely true. We're at the edge of what's possible for many of us. And to stay and to even go deeper is to come to terms with everything you learn. And you have to learn to be very honest with yourself about where you're checking out. What is it that causes you to essentially turn around and go backwards? Now, there's no real shame in going backwards. In fact, you should go back and rest, go back and reclaim pieces that you've missed, go back and get in touch with celebrations you skipped, go back and touch and hold and hug. But to be conscious that this is what you're doing is so very different than meeting a challenge and then obscuring it and trying to go vague and find some numb space that avoids the piercing presence of reality? Where are you avoiding the piercing presence of reality? Last night I had some dreams. I encourage you all to use dreams. In very specific phases, Kaiya will reach you. And again, I say Kaiya when I'm talking of the Kaiyan mind. Vast numbers of beings in tune with each other as part of this greater presence, this greater calling, this mission, this living entity that we can join. Most of us, most of you, still have not committed to joining this. You're still in vacillations. Your donations are appreciated. Thank you. And in this vacillation, you can't see deeper. So to be present with where is reality in the Kaiyan mind cutting through to you the most. And sometimes that's going to reach you through dreams, because for whatever reason, you've normalized a way of life, a way of presence, pattern, habit that doesn't leave space to hear anything new. So that's what dreams are for. So I reached some dreams last night, and I want to invite you into a little technique I use. So I'm going to focus on my diamond eye. This is 2-part breath. Learn it. I'm going to do this for a minute. I'm going to tune in with the dreams that I remember. I'm clearing space in my consciousness. Focusing on this point. And I'm saying, what do I have to work on that I missed? I was a self-righteous jerk with some people in my past. I didn't realize that despite my best efforts to be loving, I wasn't loving in a way they needed. And I need to reevaluate my memories. I need to stop complaining that I was mistreated in a certain form and realize that I was literally struggling, attempting to love people in a way that didn't work for them, and then feeling resentful that all my work was not being appreciated. That's enough. So I'm going to hold that. I'm going to work with that this week. I'm going to return to that. I'm going to sit with it and ask, how does my personality change if I let this be real? To consistently create space, to be humbled in the face of whatever it is that I might have missed, and to almost enjoy it. I do. I like it when reality pierces through, even when it's exposing a failure. Because the principle is, if I've been making a mistake, I've been making the mistake. The knowledge of it might sting, but the consequence of healing the mistake, correcting the mistake, puts me in a position where I'm going to live a much better life. So I am more excited to look into this because I know it will relieve a kind of self-righteous burden I've been bearing. I do. I have a bit of a self-righteous burden that I've been bearing. So holding that and dissolving it is a generic encouragement that I have for you. I want to help you want to find where you're slipping up. Thank you. I want to help you want to find where you're missing things. I want you to enjoy it. Because the reality is, as we bring consciousness into spaces that have been problematic, we are liberated. Think of it this way. Imagine you're going over a mountain pass. If you're carrying a bag of rocks, well, more realistically, say you're carrying a bag full of provisions mixed with rocks. If you could carefully go through what you're carrying and evaluate what you really need, and what is simply a burden, and you can unburden yourself of the things you don't actually need, you're going to have a much lighter load to carry over that mountain pass. I have a very difficult time understanding why this isn't one of the most normal lessons in modern society. I want you to be present with this, because this is actually where I wanted to get. And it's ironic that we got here in this way. When you face the potential to be sick, get well in every way you can. We have a bullshit understanding of what sickness is, particularly in the United States. I would suggest it's probably reaching much of the world that uses the internet. Anybody who uses the internet is more exposed to a lot of the lies and confusions. But particularly in the United States, we have a very broken sense of what health is. And this is true for many reasons, but they all kind of trace back to the same focus. People don't want to take responsibility for themselves. Now, if I take someone who's 70 and they're dying of a disease, and I suggest that a big core of this disease is that their lifestyle was habitually out of balance. They were regularly repressing their emotions. They were regularly not moving when they needed to move. They were regularly distracting themselves through their work and through entertainment that was arguably not good for them. They were regularly avoiding challenges in their interpersonal relationships. And by the time they're 70, they are sick in noticeable ways that we call by some term. There are various terms. And we're describing real patterns, real things that are happening in their neurology and their chemistry and their physical body. We're describing real patterns accurately, and we know all sorts of stuff about them. They move in this way, they grow in this way, they affect their mind in this way. And yet, if I sit here and hold you and say, guess what? If we look backwards through the 3 decades prior to them developing this sickness, there is a direct relationship between their personality and their habits and their lifestyle and what happens to them. A very large number of people will get mad at you because it's too late. Or that's the belief. It's too late. If we're saying they ended up this way because of their 3 decades of behavior, we're just bringing more suffering to them to say it's your fault. And that's how it can be interpreted. But 2 things. It's not too late. It's not too late. Repressed emotions can be revealed and released. And when they are released, they dramatically affect health. Habits can be changed. You might get older and think they're ossified, but magic is far more present than you believe. In fact, people in their 60s have been known to re-roll parts of their colon. Our ability to transform our body far exceeds normal belief structures. But to get there, you first have to believe it's possible. And it is quite a challenge in a society that is heavily addicted to certain kinds of restricted rational sequences, proof based in terminology and definitions that are controlled by the past, has a stranglehold over our belief patterns. And so to invite you to say, you actually have to believe some things before you know how to prove them, that's quite challenging. And yet this is exactly what's emerging. This is the natural extension of what many call the law of attraction. This is the natural extension of learning to get yourself into the emotional, but more importantly, the consciousness space of someone who is healthy. It's not a trick. You are accessing the vibrational pattern of health. You have to hold that pattern. You can't argue with it. When you're arguing with the pattern, you're not in the pattern. If you're debating with the pattern, you're not in the pattern. You're actually introducing incoherence, tension, dissonance. So there's a range of reality that we could probably just call the 20th century that was controlled by what we knew then as the scientific method, which gave a broad range of permission to argument. Argue with it. It'll make it stronger. Debate it. Ask questions. Be skeptical. A wide range of things can work well this way. You will sharpen your sword that way. You will wear down the surface of a rough statue, a stone made smooth by water. And yet there's a whole new range of reality. Let's call it the 21st century now. Let's call it the dawning of the age of Aquarius. You can't get nowhere unless you believe. And you have to check in. You have to check in. You're listening to me. Okay, you're listening. So something causes you to listen. Do you know how to evaluate who you trust? What makes you continue to listen? You've got an awful lot of choices these days, right? I can deeply appreciate the fact that you put your trust here and yet say, hey, can you question more deeply? Why do you trust me? Do you trust me? Are you sitting here because some part of you is attracted and yet you're arguing? Well, please understand, if you're arguing, your argument is a dissonance that gets in the way of actually being present with what we're doing. You can ask questions without arguing. Are you scared? Try to get into your fear. Why are you scared? Your fear itself is introducing dissonance into a belief pattern that could transform you into a superhuman. Can you be present with that fear without letting it dominate you? These are fundamental tools in health. And yet we live in a world that has encouraged us to disregard these tools and put ourselves in the hands of an expert who functions much like a mechanic. Now, by all means, please share all the beautiful doctors and healers that don't function like mechanics. Many do their best to stretch against the boundaries as they are. But the reality is, particularly in the United States, for every one healer that does that, there are untold more who don't. And for every person who's accredited as a nurse or a doctor, by the way, in the reality of the future, nurses and doctors will be equal. They'll be in charge of different wings, much like the left and right brain. We're heavily addicted, bizarrely, stoically addicted to hypervaluing the left brain. The brain itself is very equal. There's nothing in our physiology that suggests that the left brain is more important than the right. We've done that ourselves. We think we're addicted to the material plane. We think we're rational and mechanical, but we're not even looking at how the brain works. The brain is giving very explicit balance to the left and right hemispheres. We have heavily valued this doctor format, which equates to the left brain, logical, rational, mechanical, and diminished, broken down the supportive, the nurturing. I walked through the hall of a nursing ward for actually a maternity ward where women give birth. And there was a sign in the hallway that said, no mothers will be allowed to carry their baby in the hallway. And like all at once, I'm like, one mother slipped, sued the hospital, and now nobody can walk down the hall. Like, this is how they make decisions. For every healer, so now we're just going to move past that question and say, doctors and nurses, for everyone who's trained to take care of you, how many people are involved in the health care system who aren't healers? How many administrators? How many support staff? How many insurance agents? How many lawyers are making money on the system as it is? Come this way. This is the block. This is like the cork in consciousness. It's blocking billions of people from being truly healthy. Billions. And my country is the worst off by far. By far. We've demonized layer upon layer upon layer of insight from other cultures. Now, the good news is my country probably has the potential to be at the forefront again, faster than you might think, because we do have a presence for many different cultures. It's just heavily ghettoized. So there are chiropractors, there are kinesiologists, there are acupuncturists, there are energy healers, there are yogis all over the country. They're just heavily restricted. We are ghettoized. You can't participate in a universal conversation without terrible threats of, being called a quack. And they attack you with an aggression that actively ruins what we do. I'm a vibrational healer. I'm a groove doctor. I know how to help people transform their vibe. It is not beneficial to yell at a sick person to think differently. It is not beneficial to aggressively attack a wide range of people while they're trying to change their vibe. All it does is distract them. Yes, under certain circumstances, the challenge can be productive. It's very specific circumstances in which that works. If you hammer in screws, you're going to ruin your boards. There is a art to knowing how to use different tools with health. I channeled Thoth. I've spent 20 years in intimate relationship with Thoth. I want you to take a pause and ask yourself whether you really believe this or not. I don't feel defensive about it in this moment. Sometimes I do. It's a little bit daunting exposing myself to thousands of people, some of whom are assholes. It is. I'm getting better at it, slowly, but it's not pleasant. Do you believe it? Here's what Thoth told me years ago, and I've kept my faith in this. 300 years ago, it was very common in European circles, understandings of medicine, to say bless you. They were saying bless you. Why were they saying bless you? They were saying bless you because they believed that there was some kind of possession when sickness occurred. There is. There is. And largely they lost. They lost again and again and again. They had a rudimentary understanding of what was going on. They had poor insight into some phenomena and mixed them with spiritual beliefs. And they didn't have consistent ways to approach sickness that worked. But sometimes their approaches worked magnificently. Exorcisms can have a gigantic effective health. There is possession in sickness, and sickness affects the physical form. As above, so below. Humans were losing to sicknesses for centuries, consistently losing. Even when they saw the demonic possessed energies, they were not consistently able to expel them, largely because these sicknesses were attracted to karma. You can't just kick out sickness because you want to. If there's a karmic relationship, the person doesn't have the same ability to get rid of a sickness without learning the lesson. So they didn't have enough knowledge to know how to piece these skills together. But the Indians did. But the Indians didn't have the same relationship to this skill. And the Chinese didn't have the same relationship to this skill that they had in Africa. But the Africans didn't have the same relationship to this skill that they had in Europe. All these different layers affect health, and unaware to us, you can influence a lot from multiple different layers. But when you hold certain layers off bounds, you have a very different relationship to your health. Meaning, there was a profound advantage into disregarding spiritual presence, demonic possession, the intricate interrelationship between disease and consciousness. COVID has a consciousness. The flu has a consciousness. There is a profound distinction between communicable diseases and conditions. Conditions that emerge over time are not contagious. The patterns that create them are contagious. But that is very different than an external force that comes in and takes and breaks and transforms, often parasitically. You have to be able, base level, to distinguish the two. Alzheimer's is not COVID. They function fundamentally differently. And so if you want to respond to the wide range of health, you have to have an accurate awareness of what's real. But 300 years ago, they were losing so badly that it was more powerful for them to stop staring at the possession. And what they did was they eventually learned about the germ nature of disease. They learned to witness the presence on the physical plane. And when they witnessed the presence on the physical plane, they made one simple mistake. They thought that's all that it was. It's a multidimensional sickness. It has a presence on the physical plane, spiritual plane, mental plane. It's multidimensional. To ascribe priority to the physical was worth it. It was worth it. And it was worth it for a simple reason. Where attention goes, energy flows. So when they were staring at the demon but losing to the demon, they were making the demon much stronger. People didn't understand what was happening. In the process of staring at the demon, they were getting more afraid. And when they got more afraid, they were feeding the demon more fuel. So the fear generated a more powerful opponent. It's the same as with any other creature. Show a bear you're scared, it'll chase you. It'll chase you when it's not hungry. If it knows that you have no fear of it, you're no threat. That might be fun. Maybe not every bear, but a lot of bears. You run away, it's coming after you, and it's going to win. Sickness works the same way. It's borderline terrifying for most people to face the truth of this. And I'm telling you right off the bat, you got to cope with the fear first. You can't cross this threshold unless you take on your fear, which you're going to do by getting on your floor, your butt, your hands. You're going to build strength. You're going to build strength. 3 minutes, another set. 3 minutes, choose something you're going to do within 3 minutes, and we're going to do another set. So you got to understand this dynamic in order to go deep. There's no other way. I wouldn't be asserting it so clear. I tried to assert this so clearly 5 years ago when I started my YouTube channel. It just got shut down. It was like, not time yet, Daniel. Not time yet. I was pissed. I knew this stuff. It felt like a burden. It feels liberating to know it. Wasn't time yet. It's time now. It's time now. You got to look through this fear. You got to take on this fear and dissolve it and win. And I'm teaching you how to fight the bears. You're losing. You are losing. You're losing to the bears. You're rushing to the doctor. You're rushing to the doctor, and then you're feeding a different kind of monster. Because you're not just feeding the doctor when you rush to the doctor. You're feeding the 3 support staff that support that doctor. You're feeding the 2 insurance agents, and you're feeding their lawyer. And the other side's lawyer. The insurance lawyer and the doctor's lawyer. You're feeding all those people when you go to the doctor to relieve your fear. And be clear. Why are you going to the doctor? To relieve fear and pain. Be clear. Because if there's a better way to heal this, wouldn't you do it? But I'm not telling you I'm going to relieve your fear and pain. I'm going to teach you how to do it. But that's harder. I'm not going to give you a pill that takes it all away. You got to stay in it long enough to figure out how to own your power. Stay in it long enough to figure out how to own your power. You don't know how to start? Do push-ups. Do push-ups on your knees if you can't do 8 on your toes. Now. That was funny. If you were watching me, go take care of yourself. You got to fight. You got to fight for your health, and it's an internal fight. Every hour for the rest of your life, I want you to do something. It becomes so joyful. It becomes so joyful. You get this pace right, you want it. It's not hard. I want you to try for 1 moon cycle. Aim for every hour. If you only make 2, that's fine. If you only make every 2 hours. I wouldn't do anything more than 3 times often. When I'm breaking through to a new level, I will do 5 sets of things, but only when I'm really explicitly pushing to the next level. Other than that, it gets a little boring. So you learn other techniques. Look at wild chakra yoga, lots of exercises with sets on purpose. Because the goal here is to do 20 minutes every day, ideally in the morning. You want to normalize this and it feels wonderful. If you have the right choices, you enjoy it. This is not going to solve everything. This is just your foundation. But you got to build your foundation. My parents bought a house that was built by this asshole who didn't really know how to build houses. So years later, we found there was mold in a corner of the garage. And we dug into it and we found he had poured the foundation too small. And he built the house over the edge of the foundation. So the wood was resting in dirt and it had rotted. And the wood was not supporting the whole side of the house. It was just built in the 80s. He didn't build a good enough foundation, and they had to rebuild the entire side of the foundation. You got to build not just a foundation, but a good foundation. And we have a good foundation for you. And this is all it is a foundation. But you don't get this down, you don't get nothing else right. You have to break free from the pressure to tune into everybody else. In the presence of other people, you watch yourself. You be honest. I would love you to comment and tell us. Watch yourself. Think about standing up and doing a stretch in whatever environment you spend the most time. I had someone last week say they were not comfortable doing squats in front of their family. What is it that makes people uncomfortable to change things like this? Let me tell you, when you change it, you're challenging everyone else to change it, and they don't like that. You are not just struggling within yourself, you're struggling against the pressure of everyone around you to stay with these sick patterns. You have to fight within you to change it. And when you do it, weird stuff happens around you. Some people, you don't get to predict who those will be. Some of the very people you might peg as ones who will resist you will end up complimenting you. And some will do both. You have to fight to change this within yourself. Because the waves of consciousness that are moving through the world right now are shaking everything. Everything. You are feeling it. You are unsettled by it. There are fears all around us of primal needs not being met, food supply breaking down, energy supply breaking, and us being in the cold. My country's brutality, the brutality at the heart of this nation that brought people who were from all over the world who were suffering and shoved them off in this direction and told them to go murder Native Americans and make a way of life for themselves. And now we have millions of people, just several generations removed from murderers who think they're tough and they want everyone to suffer. So they just took away food stamps. Millions and millions of people entering the winter and they took away food because they're so brutal, they want to believe they're winning a brutal game. That's the only reason they're doing it. They like the fact that there's suffering at the bottom. They like it. It's their whole worldview that they're winning a game that's full of suffering. They feel more special when they're winning while more people are losing. These are the forces we're dealing with for real. And what I want you to become is someone who, lacking a better solution, you get stronger. You get stronger in your mind, you get stronger in your body, and you get stronger in your spirit, and you do it again tomorrow. From now on, 20 minutes every day. And every hour or two, you had a set. You get better at this, we'll help you get better at this. You get better at this, we'll give you more to go further and further. Join the sanctuary. We're working, we're supporting each other. I teach a class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There are various levels of the sanctuary. There's yoga Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday is meditation, which we're about to begin. So I invite you to join. We're going to shift over to live Google Meet, and we'll do a meditation and some lightning sessions. And I look forward to seeing all of you there. There's another message. Huh. That's interesting. So I'm in touch with one of my core guides. She's basically, you could think of her as Thoth's TA. Very in tune with the guy in mind. She says, he's gone. I kicked out the most disturbing force that I've been afraid of. Medical authority of some sort, by their own estimation, based in the mainstream world that feeds administrators, insurance agents, and lawyers more than it even feeds the healers themselves. Huh. Gone, huh? They really left with that. Remarkable. Apparently it's time. See you soon.